Today we will go together to Guangxi, China. The world often describes the scenery in Guilin as one of the most beautiful in the world, and Laktha is the origin of that saying. This is a place located in the north of Guangxi province. With its beauty, Laktha is known as Little Guilin, and today's story takes place here, in this beautiful setting. A benevolent person to the extent that even chickens dare not kill, now he is quietly plotting to massacre an entire village, with details of each victim meticulously recorded in his death list. 26 names on that list have now seen 3 deaths. Police must race against time to save the remaining 23 people. The question arises, why would the perpetrator carry out such a crazy plan? On March 26, 2013, as the sun gradually rose, a luxurious hotel located in Laktha County, Guangxi, began bustling with daily activities. The morning is usually the peak time for checking out. Chow, a service staff on the 7th floor, is focusing on her work. Room 8716 caught her attention because something was unusual about it. Around 10:30, she saw a young man knock on the door and enter the room. Then, just a few minutes later, bang, bang, bang reverberated from the room. The loud noise like a fight caught Chow's attention, and she reported the situation to the reception manager. Then, 2 people went to room 8716 and knocked on the door. She inquired about the recent situation, but the door didn't open. Only one person in the room answered, and it seemed not to be a big deal, just the sound from the TV. Around 12:30 noon, a man stepped out of room 8716. In the blink of an eye, the afternoon arrived, but Chow still worried about the morning noise she had heard. She decided to investigate. She used cleaning as an excuse and knocked on the door of room 8716. But there was no answer. Chow opened the door with a spare key and entered, and she witnessed an unforgettable scene. The room was in chaos, with blood on the walls and floor. In the corner of the room, she saw a human foot. Chow quickly rushed out the door and reported the situation to the manager. The hotel immediately called the police, and not long after, a police team stood by the bed where the man had died. The victim had died quite some time ago, with his body and head covered in blood. There was a large amount of blood splattered on the walls, and scratches from a heavy object were also evident. It seemed that a fierce brawl had taken place here. This is just the scene of the first case. The victim was a young man about 20 years old. The time of death occurred around 11 a.m. on the same day. The cause of death was multiple blows to the head with a heavy object. During the investigation, when a police officer accidentally shone a flashlight under the bed, they were truly terrified to see 2 human feet. The question arises, could the perpetrator be hiding under the bed? People quickly rushed out of the room and monitored room 8716 from the opposite room. Not long after, another police team, armed with heavy weapons, entered the room. They lifted the bed, and they saw another body lying under the bed with blood on the head. He had been dead for quite some time. He was about 40 years old, and the time of death was around 10 a.m., an hour earlier than the previous victim. The cause of death was also from severe blows to the head. It's clear that the perpetrator is the same person, and the modus operandi is identical. Initially, the police thought that the sound bang, 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 bang heard by the service staff Chow might be the sound of a gun or a heavy object hitting a hard object. This indicates that the attack occurred in room 8716. Both victims who were attacked have died. A rifle bag and a bullet were found at the scene, but the gun was nowhere to be found. This suggests that the killer has the gun. To determine the identities of the deceased, police proposed to check the hotel's booking history to find out who had rented the room. However, with system errors and the possibility of the murderer using false identities, this did not yield many results. At this point, a hotel receptionist spoke up. describing the room renter as a middle-aged man from 40 to 50 years old, of average build, with thinning and balding hair, speaking with a local accent. This description is completely different from the appearance of the two victims, and the police believe that the person described by the receptionist may be the murderer. Based on the information provided by the receptionist, 3 rooms were rented by the suspect, but only room 8716 was used. The police checked the other 2 rooms, but found no signs of anyone using them. This may indicate that room 8716 is where the crime took place and is directly related to the murderer. Regarding the identities of the 2 victims, the first one found had his own identity card. His name is Xiao Ngo, 20 years old. The second victim is Ta Tuan, a local who owns a KTV establishment in Laktha. Based on the new information, the police conducted further investigation activities. They divided the force into 3 groups to enhance investigation efficiency. One group was tasked with interviewing the families of the 2 victims, while the other group continued to survey the hotel. The family of victim Xiao Ngo said that he lived with his grandparents and recently learned to drive in the town. The family couldn't contact him and didn't know what happened. At the house of victim Tatuan, his wife said she couldn't contact her husband until 12:20 p.m. When the call was connected, the person who answered the phone was not her husband, but a strange man with a local accent. He said that Tatuan went to the toilet and couldn't be contacted anymore. During the investigation of the hotel, the police found images from the surveillance system. On March 26th at 9:59 a.m., 2 men entered room 8716. One person had thinning and almost bald hair. This image matched the previous description from the receptionist and is likely the perpetrator. The camera captured images of the suspect leaving the room at 12:34 p.m. The suspect wore a baseball cap and cautiously looked around both sides of the corridor before leaving. Although the hotel's camera was not clear enough to see the suspect's face, the police still had some clear information about the suspect. He is estimated to be around 50 years old, of average build, with thinning and balding hair, speaking with a local accent. In the trash can in room 8716, the police found a pile of torn paper, shredded into pieces. Some of them were soaked in water. One of the pieces had the word boss and a phone number written on it. The phone number was verified, and it turned out to be Xiao Ngo's father's number. Coincidentally, Boss is also the name of the victim's father, indicating a connection between Boss and the case. The police gathered the pieces of paper to obtain all the information, and they formed a list with names and phone numbers on it, along with the exact time of death down to the hour. The names of the 2 victims, Xiao Ngo and Ta Tuan, also appeared on this list. Xiao Ngo's time of death was 10 a.m., and Ta Tuan's time of death was 11 a.m. This coincides with the time when the 2 victims were killed. This list looks like a death list, with detailed information about the time and names of the victims. In addition, there were notes about items such as fruit knives, iron bars, baseball caps, and guns, along with renting 3 rooms. This is a list of 26 people, and 2 people have died. From this information, it seems that Boss is becoming the next target of the murderer. When the police went to Boss's house but couldn't find him, the neighbors said that at noon, Boss received a call and left, taking a dog and a handgun with him. He may have gone hunting in the nearby Tai Ho Mountain. Immediately, the police pursued and searched for Boss. His life was in danger. The police summoned local people familiar with the mountain roads and used police dogs to search. Eventually, Boss's pickup truck was found at the foot of the mountain, but no one was inside the truck. Boss had gone up the mountain and had not returned yet. After searching all over the mountain and with the help of police dogs, the police finally found Boss. He was found lying under a tree near the mountaintop, with a straw hat on his head and no movement. A sense of dread filled the air, as everyone realized that Boss had died about 3 hours earlier. The fatal head wound on him was identical to the 2 victims killed in the hotel. However, No murder weapon was found at the scene, and Boss's handgun was also missing. This indicates that the murderer is carrying 2 guns and may continue to pose a danger to others. The police need to expedite the investigation process to find the murderer and prevent further homicides. Around 7 p.m., the torn pieces of paper were finally pieced together, revealing one final sentence: "Whether adults or children, I will kill anyone I see." The police realized that the first person on the list was Toucan Phi, and the remaining named individuals all had registered residency in the same village. They went to Mr. Phi's house, and fortunately, he was safe. While chatting with Mr. Phi, they asked him about the bald man in the surveillance video. Mr. Phi mentioned that he resembled Tan Van Hoy. He had a dispute with the village over a forest farm contract. This information confirms that Hoy may be involved in the case. The police dispatched officers to other villages to inform the villagers and warn them of the danger outside. After gathering information, Tan Van Hoy, 49 years old, residing in Lac Thanh, was once a highly respected and esteemed elementary school teacher. He was a gentle and kind person, highly regarded by the villagers. After retiring as a teacher, he ventured into business and achieved considerable success. Despite his wealth, he continued to treat everyone well and was considered an excellent scholar. However, despite the positive evaluations, the truth about his involvement in the current murder case surprised the villagers. Because the location where Boss was killed was very close to the village, the police predicted that Tan Van Hoy might return to the village after committing the crime. Therefore, the police deployed a comprehensive manhunt and set up checkpoints on the roads leading into the city to prevent him from escaping by car. As the clock struck 8 p.m., the sound of 2 gunshots in the village attracted everyone's attention. The police quickly arrived at the scene and discovered that near a nearby river, someone was calling for help while being attacked. The assailant fled when the police approached. Fortunately, the villagers were safe after the attack. Man recounted that while he was electrofishing in the river, someone suddenly stood on the bank and shot at him. The attacker missed the first shot, and before Man could flee, the attacker fired again. But luckily, the second shot missed too, because Man reacted quickly. Man picked up his fishing gear and started fighting the attacker. During the scuffle, the opponent's gun fell to the ground. He left the gun behind and ran away. However, due to the darkness, Man could not see the attacker's face clearly. The police found 2 guns on the ground, a handgun and a broken rifle. The handgun was the weapon that Boss had lost in the previous murder case. Although they couldn't clearly see the attacker's face, based on the evidence and clues, it was highly likely that the fugitive was Tan Van Hoy. That night, the police deployed multiple checkpoints on major roads. At the same time, a large number of police officers were mobilized to besiege and capture Tan Van Hoy. During the search, the police received a call from the police station where Tan Van Hoy expressed his willingness to surrender. However, the police still needed to ascertain the truth. Around 11 p.m., a person slowly approached the agreed location. Immediately, several police officers quickly emerged from the roadside to subdue him. Within less than 10 hours of the crime, the murderer was apprehended. Hoy confessed to his actions and explained the entire process of his crime. According to Hoy's confession, after retiring, he signed a contract with a forest farm on Mount Tai Ho. He made a lot of money and decided to expand his business. They also inaugurated a wood processing plant to support their work. As their business was growing, Hoy's 2 old friends, Boss and Ta Tuan, proposed cooperation. They established a joint venture company and borrowed a lot of money to expand their business. They signed a lease contract for nearly 8,000 hectares of forest land. However, during the course of business, issues arose. Hoy said that Boss and Ta Tuan did not contribute, but still always demanded dividends and threatened him for money, and the tense relationship between the 3 gradually developed. From longtime friends, they had become enemies. On the other hand, village management faced problems. A large part of the villagers had gone up to the mountain to harvest bamboo shoots and deforest because they believed that forest land belonged to their ancestors. Moreover, The hoi trees planted on the mountain had been cut down by the villagers, as they heard that hoi trees would destroy the water source. This caused heavy losses for him. Meanwhile, creditors and banks continued to pressure him for debt repayment. When Boss and Ta Tuan threatened to demand dividends, Hoi felt desperate and began to execute this insane plan. He listed all his creditors and enemies on a list and prepared to eliminate each one. Boss and Ta Tuan were the first ones to be dealt with. Hoi invited Ta Tuan to a hotel under the pretext of distributing dividends and took advantage of Tu Tuan's unpreparedness to attack. After killing Tu Tuan, Hoi sought out Boss's son, Xiao Ngo. Although Ngo had no grudge against Hoi, he feared that after killing Boss, Ngo might cause trouble for his family. Therefore, he decided to kill Ngo to prevent any future repercussions for his son. However, the attack on Xiao Ngo was not smooth. The fight lasted for a while, and the sounds of the battle attracted the attention of the hotel staff. As for Boss, Hoi lured him up the mountain under the guise of splitting the money. Boss was beaten to death with an iron rod. After completing all these, Hoi went to the village of Lac Dong Dan, preparing for the next death. Tan Van Hoi appeared very calm as he explained all this, seeming to have anticipated his outcome for a long time. On November 3rd, the court announced the verdict of the first instance. Tan Van Hoi was convicted of multiple crimes, and he received the death penalty. However, in the second trial in 2015, Hoi filed an appeal. He argued that the first instance sentence was too harsh. Hoi also explained why he did what he did, all because Ta Tuan and Boss had bankrupted him. He felt desperate and believed that even life itself was worse than death. Furthermore, Hoi decided to confess, not because he thought he couldn't escape. However, in the end, the court upheld the original verdict. In 2016, the execution took place, and it had a significant impact on the local community. During Hoi's 2 trials, almost the entire village gathered at the scene, witnessing the tense developments. Among them, some believed that Hoi was truly an honest, virtuous man, and his monstrous actions were just the result of someone being pushed to the extreme. However, there were also those who believed that one should not judge others by their appearance, and that Hoi, with his sincere appearance, actually harbored a dark, cruel nature that no one had suspected. What about you? What do you think?